Pedro Meyer was a Spanish-Mexican photographer that first became known as a documentary photographer in the early 1960s, capturing images in many countries. Eventually, Meyer started experimenting with digital photography in the late 80s and the early 90s, showing a contrast in his work from images like this to this. While the photo may seem amateurish to us in 2021, it was revolutionary for its time. Meyer's use of experimentation and digital alterations to his photographs eventually led him to be categorized in the photography movement of magical realism. This was a movement coined by German photographer and art historian Franz Roh in 1925 to describe modern realist paintings with fantasy or dreamlike subjects. Basically, in other words, the pictures may seem like a real documentary picture, but on closer examination, they have strange elements and relationships to them that separate them from normal documentary ones. Meyer speaks about this, calling for the question of fabrication versus reality, which has been at the heart of photography ever since its inception. Though while Meyer's work is not of a realistic nature, he tries to highlight his own personal reality and experience through visual metaphor, claiming that all of his images are about documenting experiences and he's not fabricating or adding any extra manipulation to them. This photograph serves as an example to show how magical realism can be used on scenes without any alteration to the original photograph. One of its main principles is that it presents unreal objects with photographic clarity, allowing the emotional subtext of a scene to physically manifest itself in a bizarre fashion. As we see, these dinosaur structures exist in real life, but Pedro Meyer does not show any of that and photographs it to create a strange relationship with the other existing elements in the photo. This second photograph, however, shows how Pedro Meyer has digitally altered this image of a building by putting in fragmented parts of the Statue of Liberty, creating a meaning and message that he believes he had to experience at the time of visiting the site. For this third work, Meyer described how he had attempted to photograph several warplanes flying overhead from his subject, as appearing in the photo. However, he was unsuccessful, but managed to create the desired image later on through other means of digital alteration. This brings up the important question of whether or not he fabricated an experience in this case. Another example of this philosophy can be seen in this photograph. Meyer describes how the man in the foreground came from one photographic shot, whereas both of the men in the background came from an entirely different one, thus resulting in one of the earliest ever photographic digital composites. Yet Meyer claims that the photos were taken merely seconds apart, and both communicate the same theme he wanted to express, which was the problem of alcoholism in Native American reservations. He argued that the photos together express this theme in a more succinct, impactful way, thus bringing up the question again of whether this is fabrication or not. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes is one of Meyer's first work that does appear fabricated at first glance by a viewer, with the man in the foreground compositionally not fitting in the photo and his expression not matching with the scene. However, Meyer comments on this in an interview, saying that there is no way to divorce thought and emotion from reality, or at least from one's individual's personal documentation of that reality. I believe that Meyer is trying to offer a deeper truth of his experience in this photo. One interesting contrast between this photo taken in Oaxaca, Mexico, and the United States photos is the bright colors and the vibrant use of blue, unlike the monochrome used in all of the USA photos.